What is up everyone, this weekend I participated in an official Play Pokemon regional tournament in Lille, where I managed to fight my way all the way up to the grand finals, which secured me this awesome medal and a spot at this season's World Championship in Japan. In this video I'll showcase most of my battles. But first I'll briefly explain the format at these regionals. They're all played in open Great League Bring 6 style, so before the tournament every single participant registers a team of 6, which they are stuck to for the entirety of the regionals. Before each match you also exchange team sheets with your opponent, so you're aware of what they could potentially be running and base your strategy on that. In Lille there were 121 players and they were all evenly distributed over 4 groups, in which each group would do their own double elimination bracket until 2 players in each group were left standing, at which point all the groups would merge into one for a top 8 cut. I was placed in group D, which had some absolute studs of players like Lurgan Rocket, who placed 4th in the World Championships last season, and Dex, who is the reigning champion here. I won my first 3 matches versus Kenton Warner, Anacor, and Tragic Comics, which unfortunately I don't have any footage of, but then I was up against the reigning champion Dex, which we're gonna head into right now as those battles were live on stream. Before we do that, I wanna ask y'all, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a subscribe, helps out the channel a lot. Anyway, Dex, the one player I really did not want to face. One, because he's of course an amazing player, the reigning champion at Lille, did very decently at the World Championships as well, but mainly because he is a Talonflame fanatic. It's what he used in Lille, it's what he used in the World Championship, and my team isn't really that well prepared for Talonflame. I really don't have any great fire answers whatsoever. I was willing to take this risk this tournament, as fire has been kind of pushed out of the meta because of a ton of Altares and water types, but Dex, he loves his Talonflame, so he brought it anyway. So the team I'm running, I actually stole from a friend of mine, the Nut93. I was talking to him about Frostlass, a pick I thought was going to be very interesting at these tournaments. I hadn't really seen it being ran that much, and people weren't really bringing super hard counters for it. The best probably being Lickitung, Stunfisk, and Sableye, but even there Frostlass has a ton of plays, so it just seemed like an amazing generalist in this meta, just very difficult to build a team around. Turns out the Nut was also thinking about Frostlass and already built a couple teams around it. He showed me them, and this one looked extremely interesting in particular, so I decided I'll just steal that. It contains 4 extremely meta and solid Pokemon in Metacham, Lickitung, Stunfisk, and Noctowl, which just already form a very solid basis. Then Frostlass as an amazing generalist, and Venusaur to just fill up all the other holes. At first I wasn't too convinced about the Shadow Venusaur pick. I really loved it in the last season of Play Pokemon. I ran it myself as well. It was an absolute beast, but this time around there are more flyers, which I thought was going to be a little scary, but honestly Shadow Venusaur did so well this entire tournament, so I'm definitely convinced of the pick now. But yeah, like I said before, this team definitely struggled against fire types like Talonflame and Kanto Ninetales, which I happen to be facing right here in this match against Dex, which running Walrein, Metacham, Lickitung, Stunfisk, Talonflame, and Toxapex. I do have a couple decent options here. Stunfisk is definitely my best Talonflame answer, and was pretty decent into his team as well, really only having to worry about the Metacham. Dex also doesn't really have a hard counter for Lickitung, probably the best being Galarian Stunfisk, but even there Lickitung has a ton of play. Then Frostlass looks extremely strong as well, as it doesn't really get hard countered by it. Even Talonflame has to watch out for it, as Frostlass just outpaces, and you can't incinerate it down before Frostlass gets its 2 moves. So in game 1 I end up bringing just those 3, since they're just some of my safest options versus that Talonflame, and I lead the Frostlass with it since I don't think he'll expect that. I end up leading into a Walrein, which is not ideal, but not too bad either. Kind of an even matchup depending on baits. I feel like my Frostlass is better used elsewhere though, so after this Shadow Ball I'm gonna try to catch an Earthquake on a Lickitung, and I also hope to like lure out a potential Metacham, which I'm also expecting him to bring, and I did that. This is not a bad matchup for Lickitung. Honestly, he has better Lickitung answers in his team as well, like the Stunfisk or the Toxapex. But since I led Frostlass, I would assume he would want to get the Metacham out of the way here on my Lickitung, so I end up luring it out here, which is great. Now my Stunfisk gets to avoid it. I just eat the Psychic, throw my Body Slam here. My entire game plan here is to save shields for Stunfisk. and to use when the Talonflame comes in. And I'm expecting his game plan to be to save all shields for Talonflame to sweep with it, which is why you see me not tap here. I expect there to be a Talonflame in the back, so I stop tapping because I don't want a Talonflame to incinerate down my Lickitung, because that would just be game over with my Froslass and G-Fisk in the back, 2 shields for the Talonflame, and an energy lead on that thing would be deadly. Even at this point, without the energy lead on Talonflame, this will be kind of tough. So I'm not looking too great, but he actually didn't end up bringing Talonflame in game 1, which was, I was very surprised by. It's actually a Lickitung, which might be worse. I don't know, probably better, a little bit better. Froslass is okay here too. I don't want to take the whip though, so I end up catching it. Oh my Galarian Stunfisk here, pretty good. However, that Warren is still locked and loaded up on energy. I have an Earthquake already, plus some extra energy. I'm gonna have to make a call here. If I shoot an Icicle Spear, I think I just lose. So I end up calling the a bait, but it ends up being an Earthquake, and yeah, now I've just lost the match. I think if I shielded Earthquake, it would have been fine, but, you know, it was kind of a 50-50, and I just, well, made the wrong decision, sadly, and I go down 0-1 to Dex. Next game, I bring the same 3, but this time with a Lickitung lead, and I lead into a Galarian Stunfisk. Not great, since Galarian Stunfisk does beat Lickitung. But it's kind of close. I have a very high-ranked Lickitung, which means I will be able to survive 2 Earthquakes and get the 2 Power Whips, which will bring the Stunfisk quite low. And the very nice thing here is that my Froslass gets to avoid the Stunfisk now, or hopefully will get to avoid the Stunfisk, which is a good thing, since, well, Froslass doesn't want to see Stunfisk either. They actually end up catching the second Power Whip on their Lickitung though, which isn't great for me, but I'm very okay with this, because this now means that I can bring in my Galarian Stunfisk and knock out this Lickitung with only an Earthquake and a Rock Slide instead of 2 Earthquakes, which means that I will be able to end this matchup with a bunch of energy, which is a good thing, because I need energy to take out that Talonflame, right? Which I am this time definitely expecting in the back. He actually ends up throwing a Body Slam here. I know just a Body Slam because he didn't do enough licks for the Power Whip yet. No shield. Build up to a double Rock Slide. Throw it here. It's going to take out the Lickitung. I could have actually undercharged this and maybe got a couple more shots, but it seemed kind of risky. It brings in the Stunfisk here. Now I'm going to use a shield. Dex has shown he likes throwing the nuke moves when my shields are up. So I'm actually going to shield it up. It does end up being an Earthquake. Take all that energy on my shield. Bring in my Lickitung now. I don't want to go 2 shields down against that Talonflame, so let it go to this Fisk is now energy dry, so I'm gonna bring in Froslass to hopefully farm it down. Expecting a Talonflame in the back need energy, but actually switches it in instantly, which is fine with me. As I said earlier, Froslass has an okay matchup here, especially with a shield. I should be able to get the 2 Avalanches. Problem is though, he does have 2 shields of his own, which isn't great, because that means he can shield both my Avalanches. And he has a Flame Charge right here. Now I'm in a predicament. I cannot get to another Avalanche. I will get incinerated down. I have a Rock Slide stored on my Stunfisk, but I lose CMP versus Talonflame. If I switch in my Stunfisk right now and he predicts it, I will lose, because he gets to the Flame Charge, he knocks out my Stunfisk, and then my Froslass just gets farmed down. So I have to make sure he doesn't throw the Flame Charge into my Stunfisk. So I throw 1 Powder Stone here, switch in the middle of his Incinerate, and then throw the Rock Slide into this Talonflame to knock it out. Got rid of the bird, but there's still a Pancake left. I wasn't sure if Rock Slide would KO. So I ended up throwing the Earthquake. I knew it was energy dry anyway, so I thought it would be pretty safe. We knock out the Stunfisk. And that's a win for me. For the deciding match, I decided to get rid of Froslass. I think he's going to be more prepared for it this time. And I bring Noctowl instead. As he's shown, he really likes the Lickitung, especially as a save switch. So I bring it in the back, hoping to lure it out with my own Lickitung and then get it locked into my Noctowl. It will be really, really nice, as Noctowl just hard walls. I think he leads Talonflame here, which is fine with me. So I'm going to stay in. There's an okay matchup here. Kind of depends on baits. I'm just going to let the first one go. If they Brave Bird here, does a bunch of damage, but they're forced to switch out or take a Body Slam whilst they're debuffed. They do Brave Bird, does a ton of damage, but then they bring in Lickitung to clear the debuff. And this is exactly going as planned right now. Noctowl can just basically wall this thing. I have to throw 2 Sky Attacks here to knock out the Lickitung. But I'll be able to end up with basically another Sky Attack after this as well, which is really nice. I'm going to throw another Ball Slam here. They shouldn't be able to reach a 4th one though. They're going to reach a 3rd for sure before I'm able to knock it out, but they won't be able to reach a 4th one. The 3rd will definitely bring me quite low, but not really low enough. Gonna throw another Sky Attack. Honestly, I should have waited with throwing the Sky Attack until he was almost at his 4th, because what this is gonna allow Dex to do is throw his Bully Slime and then switch out of his Lickitung before I have any amount of like, well, I have a reasonable amount of energy, but I could have had more energy here. I could have thrown the Shadow Ball earlier against the Stunfisk before switching into Lickitung here, which would have given the Stunfisk less like free energy, which like isn't great, but still I should be looking pretty good. I get the whip. I know it's just gonna like keep shields for a Talonflame at this point, which I'm fine with. I'm gonna no shield this Earthquake. He threw Earthquake there, which might seem a bit excessive, but Rock Slide would not have KO'd. And if he Rock Slid there, I would have just gotten to the Power Up and knocked me out. So I think that's a good play by Dex. At this point, I think I have only one win con, and that's fully farming down this Galarian Stunfisk with my own. This Talonflame is dry now. They threw a Brave Bird, which means after 3 Incinerate, which means I need 3 more Incinerates for their Flame Charge. Which means that if I'm at 100 energy, I should be able to get to 3 Rock Slides in a row before he gets to a single Flame Charge. If I time my moves correctly, that is. If I do 2 Mud Shots within each Incinerate, it should be fine. Talonflame comes in now, throw 2 Mud Shots, Rock Slide. Puts up a shield. 2 more Rock Slides. 2 more Mud Shots, I mean. Another Rock Slide. Puts up another shield. Do I get there? 2 more Mud Shots. I get to the Rock Slide. This knocks out the Talonflame. Still a Pancake left though. Can we farm it down? We should be able to. He throws the Earthquake right here. Very necessary, but I still have a shield, so it didn't really matter at that point. I just farmed down the Galarian Stunfisk, and we take down Dex. GG's. That win against Dex puts me in the winners finals of my group versus ShowRiseaux, another French player running Galarian Stunfisk, Sableye, Lickitung, Shadow Swampert, Medicham, and a regular Trevenant, an autographic Show Shadow. It is definitely a regular. And honestly, this matchup is a piece of cake for me. ShowRiseaux has nothing for my Shadow Venusaur, almost nothing for my Lickitung, and almost nothing for my Noctowl. So my whole plan here is just to play Venusaur double normal every single game, and I don't think there's that much he can do against it. Game 1, I end up catching a Swampert lead, which is definitely not what I was expecting to see come out from him. I switches in a Galarian Stunfisk after that, and I'm fine just staying in here for a little bit. I don't have a direct answer for Galarian Stunfisk on this team. Venusaur actually being my best answer, but a Rock Slide would still do a ton, and an Earthquake would knock out, so I shield this up. I just plan to allocate every single one of my shields on Venusaur, to be honest. This is my squishiest Pokemon in this team. He's gonna let the second Frenzy go now, and then I decide to bring in Lickitung just to eat all of the rest of the energy the Stunfisk has to throw here, since Lickitung can take these moves much easier, and I should be able to lick down this Pokemon now. If they want to bring in the Swampert again, that's fine. I've got a potential Power Whip coming. And well, I also still have Noctowl on the back for this Swampert as well. I honestly don't understand why I brought Swampert, since Venusaur, Lickitung, and Noctowl are my best Pokemon on the team. And they all 3 have a pretty good matchup versus Swampert, so I don't get it, but I will take that. As you can see, he's actually running Muddy Water on this Swampert as well, which is absolutely insane. Apparently he's been winning matches with that. Maybe it's the way over Earthquake. He thinks it's the way over Earthquake because you can surprise people with it. So you get that one Mud Shot earlier than Hydro Cannon. So I guess it worked out for him since he's in the winner's final here. Anyway, Lickitung comes out. Look at those Shadow Frenzy plans. I also still have Noctowl on the back for this. This was just honestly a straight up RPS matchup. My way, luckily. My way. So, yeah. Noctowl comes in. We have seen this before. Noctowl just eats Lickitung. I'm just going to speed this up. I'll win that game. GG's. Next match, we both bring the exact same team. It's going to end up playing extremely similar as well. This time, he actually lets the first Frenzy go, though, which means I can now switch in my Lickitung a little earlier. Actually, I don't switch it out immediately because I kind of want to catch a potential Earthquake there and also like farm up a little bit on a Venusaur there. So that's what I did before switching, and now I bring in Lickitung. And after this, it's basically the exact same game. I'm gonna get Venusaur back on Swampert. I'm gonna get Noctowl back on Lickitung. So for the sake of time, we're just gonna speed up this matchup a little bit. As you can see here, ends up farming down my Lickitung with Swampert, using 2 shields though, and now I'm gonna shield every single Hydro Cannon. But yeah, my Venusaur and Noctowl just end up sweeping his line right there very easily. And that is what ends up winning me the 5th round of my group, which means I'm through to the top 8 on day 2 of the regional championships. My first opponent in the top 8 is Woolfpack, who swept his Group C bracket wearing a team of Sableye, Umbreon, Azumarill, Trevenant, Medicham, and Kanto Shadow Ninetales. Not on a Alolan Niantic graphic says, it's actually Kanto Fire type Ninetales. Yes, I somehow managed to run into another fire type with my fire type team. And honestly, this fire type probably worse than Talonflame, because my Stunfisk does much less good there. And besides that, I can't even really use my Stunfisk versus Wolfpack's team. Azumarill, Trevenant, and the Medicham are just too threatening for it. And it still doesn't do amazing versus Kanto Ninetales anyway. So I'm not feeling that good. Besides that, I also can't really abuse my Lickitung as much as versus Dex, as he also has an Umbreon, which does very well against Lickitung as well as versus the rest of my team. The Umbreon really only has to watch out for the Medicham. And even there, the matchup is extremely close. If Umbreon gets like one Snarl advantage there, the Umbreon beats me. So both Umbreon and Kanto Ninetales are extremely difficult for me to beat, especially together. So I'm really not feeling too good about this match. I think my Noctowl does look pretty decent though. It really only has Azumarill as a strict answer, though both Umbreon and Kanto Ninetales do fine against it as well. My Lickitung is definitely looking pretty fine if I can keep it away from the Umbreon. So I want to bring that too. And then I think I'm almost forced to bring my Medicham. I think he brings Umbreon and Kanto Ninetales every game, and Medicham does pretty decent there. So Medicham is definitely coming. Initially, I was going to run a line of Noctowl, Lickitung, Medicham, but I felt like it was way too predictable, so I ended up running Shadow Venusaur instead, which might seem a bit crazy, and honestly it is, considering he has a Kanto Ninetales he's definitely bringing, but I felt I needed to get some sort of advantage there by making a risky call like that, since what I was expecting him to do the first game is lead something weak to Noctowl, since I saw Wolfpack play versus another player who had Noctowl, and he kept leading Trevenant, which was insane to me, since Noctowl is super safe versus team. So I was expecting him to not lead strong to Noctowl, so no Azumarill on the lead, basically. But he will likely bring it in the back to answer the Noctowl, which is where I have my Venusaur stored. So I was really hoping to lead Noctowl, lure out the Azumarill, bring in Venusaur versus it, load up on energy there, and then I can hopefully snowball the game from there. That was the plan game 1. Let's see if it works out. Noctowl into Kanto Ninetales. This is actually not too bad here. This is not too bad. This is definitely not an amazing matchup, especially since he can hit an overheat. But he actually didn't end up throwing the overheat. He had a Weather Ball, which is super fine with me. I can just take that right now. I should still be able to reach to Sky Attacks. But as you can see, man, this Kanto Ninetales is just putting in so much damage. If he double shields my Sky Attacks here, actually, he doesn't even have to double shield Sky Attacks. He's just going to get to another Weather Ball before me. So I'm actually kind of forced to throw my Sky Attack here to CMP high, but he ends up catching that onto Umbreon, which is definitely not ideal. But now I can bring in Medicham here, which is fine with me. I can farm up a bunch of energy versus Umbreon. The Kanto Ninetales is still alive, but I'm not feeling too bad about it. Even though I have Venusaur in the back, I don't think that's too big of a deal. Venusaur, I actually did I've never been in a matchup with my Shadow Venusaur versus Shadow Ninetales actually at full HP, but I simmed it before this matchup, and apparently if I have like 1 or 2 Vimus advantage, I should be able to get to 2 Frenzy Plants and have some health left over too. So I'm very hopeful that I will be able to get to like 2 Vimap advantage on this Azumarill, and then get 2 Frenzies off versus Ninetales. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm gonna throw my 2 Psychics first though, just to get this Azumarill low, and this ends up being a mistake, because unloading those Psychics meant that Wolfpack felt safe to switch back into his Kanto Ninetales at the exact same time I switch in my Venusaur, which means I now have 0 energy lead, and I won't be able to reach 2 Frenzies. Probably. I'm still kind of trying, I'm doing my best to tap these moves. Honestly, Wolfpack is making a mistake here. He's throwing his moves, which is giving me free Vimus, basically. He should have really just farmed me down completely. That would have removed any chance of me getting to 2 moves, whereas now it's actually kind of close. I die with the move. Yeah, now he's just gonna completely embered me down. It's kind of wild how strong Kanto Ninetales is against this team. So, yeah, I get taken out by this Pokemon here. And I don't think I'll be bringing Venusaur again. So, next game I go with the original plan of Medicham double normal. I was gonna lead Noctowl at first, but I thought I let it in game 1. This time I'm gonna lead the Medicham into his Umbreon, which is great. He brings in the Kanto Ninetales though. I have no answers for this thing. Like, I could bring in Lickitung, but then I have to go shields down in order to win this matchup most likely, which is also not ideal. Besides that, I bring in the Lickitung, I go shields down, I have a lot of health, which the Umbreon can just use to like springboard off of and gain a bunch of energy there. I actually also don't bring in the Lickitung versus Ninetales since I'm expecting a Azumarill in the back. So I bring in my Noctowl, expecting the Azu, so I want to save my Licky. I bring it into the Kanto Ninetales, I throw the Sky Attack after shielding a Weather Ball bait, not ideal. They're gonna go for... Oh, actually, they're storing up all that energy on the Kanto Ninetales, which is so bad. They're bringing the Umbreon, farm up a bunch more before throwing this Sky Attack into the Umbreon. I really want them to throw a Foul Play into me now, which they do. Not before I throw my Sky Attack though, just to chip this thing and also wear out the Switch Timer, because I want to bring in my Medicham at some point. We actually CMP tied here, which is fine. Gonna take this Foul Play, switch in my Medicham now. They're almost at another move though. I cannot throw my Ice Punch before it, but I should be able to survive that and still get to another Ice Punch. Man, this Ninetales has so much energy though. This is very worrying. I'll throw this Ice Punch. This shouldn't knock out the Umbreon, but will bring it kind of low to the point where I might be able to farm down. To bring in the Medicham right now, get some farm. Do have Lickitung for it, which is a decent matchup. But with that energy lead he has, I definitely won't win the zeros. And even if they had no energy lead, the zeros here are extremely close. And I cannot shield, since the Ninetales has an overheat. So sadly, at this point, it's looking pretty much over. Look, I'm already in the red. There's no way I'm beating that Ninetales. There's absolutely no way. I still try though. I throw Body Slam. I think if I can catch a move on my Noctowl, I might still have a slither of a chance. But man, at this point, I just didn't keep track of the Switch Timers that well. I actually tried to catch an overheat there, expecting him to like snipe me with a Weather Ball. But as you could see, the Switch Timers weren't even up, so it was a bad play by me. But honestly, it didn't matter at all. I was just completely like outplayed there, outline up there. That like juggling with the Umbreon and the Kanto Ninetales is extremely difficult for my team to deal with, sadly. So I end up going down in the first match in day 2, which means I'm now in the loser's bracket. If I lose one more game, one more match, I mean, I'm out of the tournament. I'm not going to Japan. If I want to take it to Japan now, I have to win 3 more matches in a row. First one being ArceusAurelius, who's running a pretty interesting team with Stunfisk, Trevenant, Shadow Lapras, Obstagoon, Cresselia, and Toxapex. Not an easy team to deal with for me, because he has basically a hard counter for everything on my team. I think my Shadow Venusaur looks very, very solid though. Best answers probably being Lapras and Trevenant, or Toxapex even, but Venusaur has a lot of play there too. Then my Lickitung is quite fine, really only has to worry about the Obstagoon. So I think Lickitung, Venusaur core already looks pretty good. And then Medicham is quite fine as well. Cresselia and Trevenant are definitely issues, but like Lickitung and Venusaur do like fine versus both. So those are the 3 I will be running. It's kind of soft versus Toxapex, but all 3 do have play versus Toxapex, so I believe I should be able to play around it. Game 1, I go with a Lickitung, Venusaur, Medicham line, kind of with the goal of leading my Trevenant answer. If I don't see Trevenant, I want to switch in Vini to lure it out, and then if the Trevenant is gone, then Medicham can sweep, hopefully. That's the whole idea. But I actually end up leading into Cresselia, which is amazing. They bring in Lapras. Lickitung versus Lapras is actually a fine matchup for Lickitung, but I decided to just instant switch into my Medicham right here. Honestly, I should have really considered staying in, because it's quite obvious that he's leading ABB versus Medicham, so it's likely Obstagoon or Stunfisk in the back. So maybe I should have stayed in with my Lickitung versus the Lapras, just to take it out with Lickitung. And then I would have had my Venusaur versus Cresselia at the end still, which is a very fine matchup for Venusaur, especially when shields are down. Since Cresselia is running Grass, not Moonblast, Venusaur resists every single one of her charge moves, and a Shadow Frenzy does a ton. So in hindsight, that's probably what I should have considered. I even considered switching out there. My timer wasn't up before this charge move, but if my timer would have been up, I would have actually switched in Venusaur right there. Just save my Medicham, since even at that health, I could basically counter down an Obstagoon. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. I have Venusaur here. It actually does matter. If they get the boost here, they win. Luckily, they don't get the boost there. Also made sure to no-shield the first one, since if they boost, like, that's my highest chance of maybe getting to a couple frenzies. But yeah, if they boost once here, I actually lose, since I won't get to 3 frenzies. And I really need to get to 3 frenzies in order to win this game. They don't boost again, luckily. I get to another frenzy right here. Should knock out the Obstagoon if they don't shield, but they do shield. Now, will I get to another one? This is actually super, super close. I do get there. They don't even throw the move. I mean, they maybe should have thrown the move. But their only win condition at that point was hoping that they could counter me down. And if they throw a move, I'm gonna get a free Vine Whip, right? So I think them not throwing the move is actually kind of smart, since that's basically their only chance, the only slither of a chance at a win at this point. Maybe they shouldn't have even thrown the second Night Slash for that reason. But yeah, that's risky, because maybe actually, as you could see, his only win con was actually a boost. So he went for it, didn't get it. That's a win for me. I'll take that. Next game, I bring the same lineup, but in reverse with the Medicham in the lead, and end up catching the Lapras, which is amazing. They bring in Cresselia, which I respond to with my best answer, Lickitung. But at this point, I realized that I might have screwed up, since this is a pretty obvious Trevenant bait out. So yeah, I'm not too happy with this. But I know Venusaur can still do kind of fine versus Trevenant. It's not a great matchup. Trevenant does generally win that, but if I can like call a bait or bait myself, it's like a decent enough matchup to where I should still be able to win this game. Anyway, I'm gonna go for another Body Slam here. I didn't know who wants CMP here actually, so I end up not throwing my Body Slam. But I really should have. I know I still survived this, but I should have probably thrown my Body Slam. I actually still don't know who wins CMP there. I haven't looked it up. But yeah, during the game, I thought I didn't win CMP because I'm a Lickitung, but they're also Cresselia. So maybe I would have won CMP. Then I would have probably been able to get to the whip versus the Cresselia, which would have been quite nice. Anyway, like I expected, it is a Trevenant in the back. I bring in my Shadow Venu. At this point, it's all about the bait calls. And I'm calling the Seed Bomb, and I call correctly. As you saw, I didn't even bait there. I just went straight for the Frenzy. I want them to let this go. This is a ton of damage. So, but yeah, they're smart. Even though they know it's a Frenzy, they shoot it up. They're gonna go for another bait. Now, if I shield this, I won't get the 2 Frenzies. So if I shield this and I throw my Frenzy, they're gonna get a big farm. And they'll have a big energy lead versus my Medicham. I don't want that to happen. So I actually no-shield the second one too, expecting them to bait again, which will allow me to go to the Frenzy here. Take another shield. And at that point, my Medicham should be ready to just sweep the game. They do have a little bit of energy here, but I have 2 shields. They'll get some valuable Shadow Claw damage in, which this is still kind of scary. It's still kind of scary, especially if they can catch, which is why I make sure to wait 1 turn here. I wait 1 turn, throw in the middle for Shadow Claw. Actually, if we can watch that back here. That waiting the 1 turn actually saved me there, because they timed their catch perfectly. Do you see that? They tried to tap their switch there, but because I waited 1 turn before throwing my move, they couldn't switch. I countered them down. And now Medicham with a shield should be fine to just take out the Lapras here with a Psychic, which I'm going to go for here. I don't think this knocks out yet, but they're only at like 1 serve here. So even if it doesn't, should be able to knock out in a couple counters before they get to 2 serves. GG's. Then next up, I'm up versus my friend, the Nut93 in the loser semifinals. And we're both running the exact same team he built. Our teams are quite weak to the Frostlass, so I'm definitely expecting him to bring it, and I'm definitely bringing mine as well. There's literally nothing on our team that really does amazing versus it. Lickitung and Stunfisk probably bring the best answers, but even there, Frostlass has play. Since Frostlass has so much play though, I'm expecting him to bring his own, and the Lickitung and the Stunfisk expecting mine. Instead of doing the same thing, I decided to be a little more surprising with my lineup and bring the Shadow Venusaur and Medicham in combination with my Frostlass instead, since the Shadow Venusaur and Medicham are quite good versus that Stunfisk Lickitung combo. Which, as you can see, that call ended up being right in this first game, as he is bringing exactly what I expected him to bring with the Lickitung, Stunfisk and Frostlass, but still far from over. I'm feeling pretty good about this elite matchup though. Shadow Venusaur does generally win this, but it is quite close. And I also don't really want to win this matchup, because if I win this matchup, then the Frostlass is just gonna get farm, and I'm screwed. So what I'm actually gonna end up doing here is do 2 more Vine Whips and try to catch the next Body Slam, which I do. I end up catching the next Body Slam onto my Frostlass, which is quite huge. Should be able to farm down this Lickitung now before the Power Whip, I think, or at least get to the Avalanche before the Power Whip. Now in comes the Stunfisk. You might think this is not too good, but this is exactly part of my plan. I really wanted him to bring out this Stunfisk. Both our team are quite soft to Medicham. Like, even Frostlass doesn't do amazing with Medicham. So if the Nut takes out my Frostlass here with the Stunfisk, I will be able to fully farm it down with Medicham and have a bunch of energy loaded to knock out that Frostlass as well that I'm expecting in the back. You only get 7 Mudshots here, so notice there's just a Rock Slide. I can safely let it go. We are talking about it here too during the match. Always fun battling a friend. I know he's in trouble now, as you can see, because Frostlass versus my loaded Medicham is not so great, and I still have a Frenzy stored on my Venusaur as well. Definitely far from over though. He still has a catch left in that Lickitung, so I'm really gonna have to make sure he doesn't, catch any of my moves. Just gonna shield this up here. I know it's probably an Avalanche, but it will still do enough to put me in Powder Snow downrange. Go for a Psychic here in the middle of his Powder Snow. Now, I'm kind of expecting him to switch into his Lickitung to catch a Frenzy. So I'm going to end up doing some more counters and then make sure I switch in the middle of a Powder Snow so I can Frenzy this Frostlass before he's able to switch out. Take it out. In comes the Lickitung now. I won't be able to farm it down. Ooh, I don't even get to the Frenzy. But yeah, my Medi should be able to counter down the Lickitung here. And I take the first game. GG's. In this next game, I leave the Shadow Venusaur on the bench because I think he'll be expecting it and bring Noctowl maybe. So instead I bring Lickitung, which still isn't great versus Noctowl, but at least it's a little more bulky, doesn't get one-shot by a Sky Attack. I'm leading Frostlass too, since I don't think he'll expect it. But I get a not-so-great lead with Lickitung into my Frostlass. It's definitely not bad though. I have pace to Avalanche, and if I want to, I can even win the 0 shields here. So I get to 2 Avalanches before they can lick me down with a Power Whip and some licks, but I don't really want to do that. I want to save my Frostlass for potential Noctowl since my backline isn't too strong against it. I bring in my Medicham here since I know if I get a couple counters advantage, it's like decent versus everything in his line. Even if Frostlass came out there, I would have been finer. Ends up throwing a Power Whip into my Medicham though before dipping into Noctowl, which seems like very strange. Well, first off, throwing a Power Whip, definitely a mistake. He should have thrown a Body Slam. Secondly, he might have wanted to consider switching into Frostlass instead, because Frostlass is a better answer versus Medicham than Noctowl is. However, I think the reason he did this is because I led Frostlass, and Noctowl just isn't very useful versus Frostlass. So getting the chance to use it in this matchup is one he took. And Noctowl also isn't amazing versus Medicham, which is why he did that Body Slam chip damage before switching out. Actually, that Power Whip chip damage, but it really should have been a Body Slam. He needed to do that chip damage in order to keep switch here, honestly. That's what he does. I think he's hoping I'm weak to Frostlass in the back, which I'm not with Lickitung. But as we saw earlier, it's not like an amazing matchup. In comes the Lickitung here. I have exactly enough energy to get to the Avalanche before the Power Whip. If he just Body Slammed, yeah, that throwing a Power Whip might have really cost him that game. Because if he just Body Slammed earlier, he would have reached the Power Whip before my Avalanche took a shield. And then it's like I've won a shield here. Then he might have actually had a chance. He throws a couple Body Slams into my Lickitung. I just want to get a little bit of farm here for the Frostlass, which I'm expecting in the back. I throw the Body Slam at that moment, and he decides to switch at exactly that moment too. So he makes a very nice catch on the Body Slam right here. At this point, I'm feeling kind of okay though. I think if I can just straight Power Whip here, I should be able to win this game, even if he calls that. Go for the Power Whip. My Switch Charmer is also almost up, and my Frostlass is outside of Powder Snow downrange. So I'm just going to farm up to a Body Slam, switch to my own Lass. He has to throw a move here to take me out. So just shield that up. Timer shouldn't be up yet, so shield this up. Get to my own Avalanche. Take out the Frostlass. My Lickitung is still outside of Body Slam range, so even if he farms me down here and gets to the Body Slam, and we CMP tie and he wins the CMP tie, I should be fine, because I should survive that. So yeah, I do get there. Take out the Lickitung, and I win versus my friend, the Nut, which is kind of bittersweet, because I would have loved to see him go on as well. So. But it is what it is. That win did put me into the losers finals, which means that if I win this match, which will be a best of 5 by the way, I will have secured my ticket for Worlds and a spot in the grand finals. Since Noctowl is so safe, I'm putting it into the lead versus an Umbreon in game 1. This is not an amazing matchup for Noctowl by any means, but I do win the 0 shields here. If they start using shields though, Umbreon does like kind of crap on the bird, but otherwise I can win this matchup. So at the very least, I'll be able to get switch here or shield advantage, with both of which I'm fine with. I'm just gonna take this next foul play here, of course. Don't really want to use any shields. I need to save basically all my shields for that Kanto Ninetales, since it is such a threat for my team, and an overheat almost one-shots everything. Even though I'm running some very bulky Pokemon, Lickitung and Medicham definitely do not want to take an overheat. The throw another foul play puts me deep into the red. I'm actually going to switch out with this Sky Attack since I know it's going to be useful later. I'd rather use it on like a Kanto Ninetales or a Medicham, which I'm expecting, than on that red HP Umbreon. So instead, I switch into my Lickitung, take a foul play, and use it as kind of a springboard to gain some energy to throw whatever is in the back, which in this case, I'm going to bring in a Azumarill, which I was very worried about. Since he brought in a Azumarill, I was kind of expecting this to be like Sableye in the back, which will be super bad for my Medicham. But as you can see, they actually have Kanto Ninetales in the back, which is strange, because Kanto Ninetales is definitely better versus Lickitung than Azu. However, I think my opponent was just making a call here. I think they were expecting Venusaur in the back. And if they were expecting Venusaur in the back, then bringing in Azu here makes a ton of sense, because in that case, they just save shields for Kanto Ninetales and sweep everything. Even if I didn't have Venusaur, honestly, that's a decent strategy, because Kanto Ninetales with shields is just insane versus my team. Like, it brings it in now, it's 2 shields. I do have energy on both Noctowl and Lickitung, but this is definitely not over. Just gonna keep Ice Punch baiting here. Honestly, I don't even have to bait. Even if they take an Ice Punch, I'm actually super fine with that. If they no-shoot the Ice Punch, because an Ice Punch is basically all I need to counter this down. So even though I have the Psychic, I just go for another Ice Punch. If they let it go, super fine with me, because this just means that I have to throw their move earlier. So that's fine. Shouldn't be at 2 yet. So I just bring in my Lickitung here, go for a Body Slam, knock out the Kanto Ninetales. I have another Body Slam stored, which should be able to take out the Umbreon. And if it doesn't, somehow, still have a Sky Attack stored on my Noctowl as well. So I'll win the first match. GG's. Next game, I just go in with the same lines. I don't think he'll expect it. And again, we see Noctowl to Umbreon lead. It's actually the exact same lines once again, which I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting maybe something a little different from him this time. Maybe a Ghost type in the back for my Medicham, which is why I'll actually end up playing this lead matchup differently this time. I won't be switching out into Lickitung anymore, since I don't expect him to bring in the Azu into my Lickitung this time, if he is expecting the same line. So this time, I'm actually going to throw my third Sky Attack, which we will see in a second. Not before I throw his second Sky Attack though. These matchups are kind of boring, not gonna lie. It's just battle of the tanks at this point. But that is the Open Great League for you. If I'm not allowed, or if I'm unable to bring my Venusaur and Frostlass like in this matchup here. But yeah, anyway, we finally get to the third Sky Attack. This will knock out the Umbreon. They bring in the Kanto Ninetales here, I would assume. Let's see. Yeah, they do bring out the Kanto Ninetales. Lickitung and Medicham are both good here, but I bring out the Medicham since Lickitung will be good against everything in the back. Like, Lickitung is a monster versus his whole line, except for Umbreon. And Medicham is also not great, but it's like fine. So I know that I'll be safe if I just bring in the Medicham versus the K9, since I know Lickitung will be decent versus everything in the back. Whereas if I bring in Lickitung versus the K9, I can't be sure that Medicham is good versus everything in the back, since there could be a Sableye, Trevenant, or Azu, all three of which aren't great for Medicham. So that was just a safer play, and I was right, since it is an Azu, which my Lickitung, of course, just does amazing against. I'm not going to bait a Body Slam like I did in game 1, since that was kind of a mistake. Well, it wasn't a mistake, I think, but he ended up calling that Body Slam, which, well, put me in a tough spot in game 1. But in game 2, I'm just going to go straight Power Rip. I should be able to win this matchup straight Power Rip, so it's fine with me, even if they shoot up. I shoot up an Ice Beam earlier, which isn't great, but I should be able to take another move. So just play rough, I let go, doesn't knock me out. I get to the Power Rip here, and I'm going to instant switch into Medicham after this, just to get a little bit of energy lead, but actually instant switch into Kanto Ninetales as well, which is fine. Already had a Psychic, knock out the Kanto Ninetales, and actually take the second win. And as you can see, well, in a second here, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I really wasn't expecting to be able to win against this team, but I am winning, so I'm feeling pretty good, but it's not over. It's a best of 5. I need to win one more game out of the next 3 matches to take this win here. And I just end up going with the exact same line. I mean, there's no way I'm deviating from the 3 I'm running, since I think they are just my only win con, honestly. And I wasn't expecting him to expect me to run the same line again. So I just run the same. Unfortunately, runs the Azumarill, which is far from ideal for my Noctowl. But it's not too bad either. I can at least bring the Azumarill kind of low, and my Medicham gets to avoid it, which I like, because I am kind of expecting Umbreon, Kanto, Ninetales in the back, which Medicham does like fine-ish against. But as you can see, he's actually not running Kanto, Ninetales, or he's actually not running Umbreon this time, which is kind of wild, honestly. Wasn't expecting that. I really thought my Noctowl would be able to farm down his Azumarill before it got to another Ice Beam, which is why I shielded, but unfortunately that is not the case. I'm gonna have to end up catching an Ice Beam here. When the Azu is at literally 1 HP, which is just wild. In comes the Medicham now. Definitely wasn't expecting. I thought Umbreon was gonna come out. But now it ends up being a Medicham, which means it's probably Kanto Ninetales in the back, which means I really have to save shields, which means I can't shield this. I really can't shield this. So I let it go. Medicham is still kind of healthy. Not great. I think I end up bringing in the Noctowl here just to grab a shield. Take out the Medi. Yeah, I do. My timer should be up after this, so I can switch into my own Medi. Just let it go. Yeah, I mean, that game plan is just saving 2 shields for Kanto Ninetales always, right? And, you know, with a shield deficit, Medicham just cannot win this, no matter what. I let the first move go, since it's definitely just going to be a Weather Ball, but even though I call the bait, at this point, they're fully embering me down. So I know that. I'm just going to let the next one go, and I lose game 3. It is now 1-2. GG's. Next game, same 3. Switch up the lead this time. Lickitung into Kanto Ninetales. I am feeling pretty good about this because of the 3 on my team, Lickitung is actually the strongest answer for Kanto Ninetales, so it's pretty good. They're bringing a Medicham here to my Licky. I chip it with Body Slam and then go into Noctowl. Noctowl versus Medicham actually isn't an amazing matchup. Since one Sky Attack doesn't kill quite yet, Medicham actually ends up winning the 0s and the 2s here. So it's a very flexible bird, but versus fighters like Medicham, it doesn't really do an amazing job. But yeah, if I get that chip, I think I'm fine. However, I don't really want to shield this. I don't really want switch at this point. I know Medicham is still fine against the K9. If I shield that, and they let my Sky Attack go, they can probably just farm down with the K9, and then have a bunch of energy loaded for my next mons, which is far from ideal. So instead, I opt to just farm it down with Lickitung. I have a bunch of energy on this thing, and now I'm really expecting my Medicham to just sweep. Kanto Ninetales already has a Weather Ball store though, which isn't ideal at this point. It is the hardest hitting move. So even though I know this is not going to be an overheat, I might as well shield it. I'm not expecting him to get to 3. I should go for a Psychic here. All I've been doing is throwing Ice Punches at the Kanto Ninetales. So I was expecting him to expect me to throw another Ice Punch bait and no shield it. But unfortunately, he actually ends up shielding it. And that might actually cost me here, because I'm going to go for the Ice Punch here, knowing that he's going to reach another Weather Ball otherwise, thinking this will kill. It doesn't though, and he reaches the Weather Ball. If I would have baited there and he would have shielded, I would have been able to Psychic before this. This Ninetales would have been dead. I would have been outside of foul play range, which by the way I'm going to catch since I need to keep my Medicham alive so I can do some more counters. But yeah, because I did hit that Weather Ball, this Umbreon will now be easily able to take out my Medicham as well. Sadly, so that is not looking good for me after this match, which I'm just gonna speed up, by the way. This takes so long. He's just gonna double up on foul plays and take out my Medicham here too, and we're tied 2-2 now. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. Game 5, I bring the 1 lead I haven't before, Medicham lead, and I lead into a Kanto Ninetales, which is not too bad but not great either. They don't even build up to an overheat here, which makes this a safe no shield. But if they want to, they can grab switch here, because they can just fully ember me down before I get the 3 charge moves. So maybe that's smart from them, not even building up to the overheat, knowing that they just want to chip. But, you know, they can also win the 0s, or not the 0s, they can win the 1s if they Weather Ball bait and then overheat me. So yeah, this is not a great matchup for Medicham, that's for sure. They didn't want to take more charge moves on Kanto Ninetales, it seems, so they're bringing the Umbreon, since Umbreon can easily take these charge moves. But this is, like, amazing for me. This is really good for me, because I get off 2 Ice Punches, which the Ice Punches don't do that much, but the counters I'm getting in between are adding up a ton. This Umbreon is already at 50%. He's basically forced to throw a charge move here, which he does right here, and now I can bring in Noctowl versus the Umbreon. I'm still not feeling amazing about this though, because that Kanto Ninetales still has some energy. And, well, like, I don't know what's in the back yet. I don't know what's in the back. My Noctowl was going to be pretty low health after this matchup, which I'm kind of fine with since I'll exchange that health for a bunch of energy here. I'm just going to farm up to the next, throw my next Sky Attack right before the foul play. This will knock out the Umbreon. Actually, I think the Ninetales was almost energy dry, right? Yeah, it was. So I could potentially throw like 5 more wing attacks here, but I didn't really want to take more Ember damage, so I actually end up only throwing 3, which is like a middle way. I don't take much Ember damage, but I'll also get to the Sky Attack kind of soon versus whatever comes in, which ends up being the Medicham. Take the shield there with the Sky Attack, bring in the Licky Tongue. This is fine. I actually no shield the first move, knowing that it's likely a Psychic, but I don't want to shield a Psychic and then get the defense drop, because that is my lose condition. So I no shield the Psychic, I don't even get the defense drop, which is amazing. Now I can just shield this Ice Punch. And we're taking the win here. We're taking the win. I get to the Body Slam. This will knock out the Medicham. And, well, the stream already switches to this camera, and I just pop off. This was... I can't believe I won that match. I absolutely couldn't believe I won that match. So, yes, that was extremely hype. That was extremely hype. That wasn't the grand finals yet, by the way. That was the losers finals. But this match puts me into the grand finals, top 2 already, which secured my spot at the World Championships. But I still have a grand finals to play against Colin, another guy from the Netherlands. I will put those battles in the next video, because this one's already long enough. But yeah, at this point, I'd already felt like I'd won the tournament, honestly, because getting the Worlds invite was my main goal, of course. Anyway, that was it for today's video. Stay tuned for the grand finals, probably tomorrow. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with your battles, trainers.